Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're very privileged to have Max Tang onto the channel to talk about his experience of getting into Cornell University, majoring in computer science and math. We're going to be talking about questions like how did you get in, what are some extracurricular activities you've done, and so much more. So I can't wait to get right into this interview. Max Tang, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So let's get started off with just a bit more about who you are. What were some of the subjects you did in high school, and how did that kind of slowly develop into an interest in computer science?
Great. So in high school, I studied in Dalston Boys School in Hong Kong, and I did the International Baccalaureate. I studied economics, chemistry, and mathematics, analysis and approaches like MAA, and these three subjects are for higher levels. And I also did English language and literature, um, biology, and Chinese B as standard levels. And I got a 42 out of 45 in the IB diploma, which is like considered like decent overall like in the world, but in my school it is unfortunately lower than average. It is a
Yes.
very high standard, I'm telling you. It is a very high standard at DBS.
Definitely. I have to say, I'm very glad I escaped DBS. Me and Max were actually primary school friends, and he went to PD and I escaped all the way to Harrow. But I have to say, you talk a lot about a bit of science, you have some STEM there, and you also have some English and humanities as well in your course. How did you find your different parts of your IB program work together, and how did those two help you develop, or at least help you realize that you were interested in studying computer sciences?
Well, to be honest, one thing good about the IB is because they force you to write essays, right? Like for example, for economics, you're forced to write like I think four commentaries about current economic issues that really help me understand like what economics is and how I can fit that into my portfolio. And another thing about IB is like there's this thing called the extended essay where you have to write I think around 4,000 word essay about a topic of your choice, and if you like plan it right, you can actually link your IA and your EE extended essay into your college applications and show that you're interested in this subject and you actually like did something to pursue this subject. So in that regard, I believe the IB is actually a very good program, and it is like essential for me getting into Cornell University.
So we've talked a bit about your IB program, and I'm sure we're going to get back into it. But one of the things which comes into mind when you're applying to US universities, especially the top end, like the Ivies, like your Cornells, your Columbias, and your Harvards, you're thinking a lot about, well, actually, we're not only looking at what you're doing within the school, but you're also looking at, well, what are some extracurricular activities beyond that? So what would you say are some subject related, so computer science or mathematics related subjects or extracurricular activities that you've done in the process of applying to university?
I see, I see. That is a great question. So I think the first thing I did is to like reach out to the network I had in DBS, because one thing that made DBS very good is because like it is a very well-known school in Hong Kong and has a very good old boys network. So what I did is I joined a lot of clubs and societies. I became like chairman or like vice chairman of a few clubs, and I also reached out to an old boy who was doing a startup called Hohei, like Hohey, which is the English dialect of a good show in Cantonese. And his startup was honestly, it's just an ideation stage startup, and they were like looking towards building the Hong Kong film industry from the ground up. And I interned there during this. I think I interned there during like around spring semester of my junior year in high school. Although like the internship, it isn't really structured in like the traditional way, but I still learned a lot and it looked very good on my portfolio. So I would say during high school, I really reached out to a lot of people and I pounced on every opportunity I can find. And I feel like that is what helped me a lot in my application process.
Having that network and leaning on that network is a very important thing, because in some sense, on one hand, you seem to feel like, as a high school student, the ability to network and the caliber of people you know seems limited. But at the same time, you need to notice that you're actually part of a high school. And oftentimes, that high school has history, it has alumni, it has a network as well. So sometimes reaching out to people who have been at that school before, especially at DBS, they do the Old Boys Association, is absolutely wonderful. But sometimes reaching out to old boys or reaching out to your schools or even your teachers could be a very important thing in getting, or at least understanding, what are some things you can do beyond the classroom. So you said you've taken over some societies and clubs and played a role in those. What are some of those societies and clubs that you've taken part in, and how has that impacted your understanding of computer science or leadership in general?
Well, like honestly, the funny thing about computer science is I didn't really get involved in a lot of computer science stuff in high school. Like I know a lot of I know a lot of people who are in my classes who did AP in computer science in high school, or like they joined their computing or hackathon society. But I didn't do all that because I didn't really have a goal in high school. I mean, of course, I have a goal of getting into a good university, but I didn't really know what I want to study yet. So what I did is I became the chairman of the Entrepreneurship Society, and I became the vice chairman of the chess club. And for the Entrepreneurship Society, it was pretty rewarding because it it really gave me the reason, or like the motivation to look more into, you know, building a business and maybe even investing. So one key thing that I did in high school for the entrepreneurship society is that I created a stock investing competition using the website Investopedia, and I believe that it really like showed my leadership skills in high school, and it showed that like I have the organization skills and the logistic knowledge to actually make an event happen in high school. So I think that is a plus. And for chess club, I organized tournaments with my friends, and honestly, it was kind of easy to organize because we just went to chess.com, we opened a tournament, and we sent emails to everyone in high school. It was pretty fun actually. I think around like 20 or 25 people enrolled in our tournaments, and we greatly increased the publicity of the chess club in high school. So yeah, that was some of the stuff I did when I was leading clubs in high school.
So that sounds like a very interesting presentation of what you've been doing so far. Perhaps being a bit more specific to CS, what are some specifically CS related things to demonstrate your interest to Cornell, that you actually were interested in CS and it wasn't just like, oh, I need to throw a major in there, so I'm going to put CS there? What were some things that you have done in that process?
So I think the first thing I did regarding CS is during COVID, I was bored, right? So I just went on edX and did a introduction to Python course. And after that, during the internship I did for the old boy Hohei, I did a bit of backend coding for them. And yeah, like honestly, I feel like in my university application, these two things are the main CS things I've done. And I feel like what made me stand out is that this like isn't high school courses. I went out on my own and I like found these opportunities and I went on and finished them. Like this shows initiation and interest. So I feel like um at least in my opinion, I feel like doing these self-initiated things are more important, or like shows that you're interested in computer science better than enrolling in like high school courses in CS.
That's a very interesting presentation, and I suppose developing on that, if you had to go back in time, perhaps, and you could go back to your high school self and ask yourself, well, actually, I could perhaps do a bit more extracurriculars in these things, or just give yourself some advice over your application process in general, what would you tell high school you?
Because since right now I'm set on computer science and math, honestly, I would have done information Olympiad when I was in high school because one thing about coding is, of course, everyone can tell you, you know, like, even if you're majoring computer science in college, you don't really have to have a computer science background because there will be introduction courses taught in college. But although that is true, but if you had learned coding in high school, you would be miles ahead of everyone. And when you're like enrolling to internships, these coding experience will definitely help you because one thing I did is I didn't really code in high school, like, although I did a course, but then like after doing the course I had to do the IB, so I completely like stopped doing CS, stopped coding for like I think a year and a half. So when I set foot in college, although I had a very solid foundation of coding concepts, I wasn't really like a coder, so to say. And around that time, the recruitment seasons for internship starts, right? So like of course I got some interviews, but I didn't really like do well in them because I was still learning the introductory concepts in CS, right? So like if you did information Olympiad, um, oh I forgot what its name is, like informatics or something, like information Olympiad, like the coding competitions in high school. Um, it would definitely help you have an easier time in like studying computer science in universities and like getting internships too. So yeah.
Mhm. That's a very interesting presentation. Perhaps let's take a step back before we take a step forward and talk about your more application coming up specific information. What got you into CS and what made you decide to apply for CS instead of anything else you could possibly have pursued?
Okay, so like to be completely blunt with you, my first choice was to become a doctor or a dentist because like my dad is a dentist and like at least like the social circle I grew up with are mostly consists of like doctors and dentists. But then I don't know, like something about being a doctor, like studying for 6 years and like doing residency just kind of took me off. And I don't know, like and I was kind of more interested in having a more exciting life. Like, of course, doctor's life is very exciting, but I feel like if you're a CS major, you can do a lot of things, right? You can go into finance, you can start a startup, you can work at tech firms. Just like this breadth of possibilities, and and CS is actually like a skill, right? Like basically you can't BS out of it because like sometimes for maybe business or something, you can basically maybe grind the night before and like BS or wiggle your way out of it. But CS like it's a valid skill and like it is just honestly like I wouldn't say CS is a professional thing, but like it is like borderline professional. So that's why I wanted to get into CS.
Mhm. Yes, that's always a very interesting direction because sometimes when you're thinking about where you're applying to, you're not only thinking about what you want to do, but also there is that element of saying, well, what do I not want to do as well? And that also kind of just as well helps your decision process when it comes to applying to university. So now we've touched upon applying to universities. I'm sure a lot of the viewers right now are going to be very interested in, well, actually, how do you improve your Common App process, especially when they have the opportunity to learn from someone who's at an Ivy League right now? So, well, what would you think are, let's say, in the broadest sense, what are the 5 aspects of your application that best helped you get into Cornell?
But that is a great question. 5 aspects. Okay, let me think. So, let's start with my common app essay. I would say like I'm pretty sure you have seen my common app essay
Yes.
too, right? I sent it to you. So it's basically about like my two bent pinkies. That like
Hmm.
I'm born this way. It's weird. It's called clitodactyly. I think it affects like 1% or like 2% of like all people. I forgot the number is, but basically, what I wrote is, I grew up with this I wouldn't say it's defect, but like this thing with bent pinkies, and I struggle to read and write as a. I mean, I struggle to write and like type as a child, but then through learning how to play the piano, I learned how to deal with it and learns the principle of like beauty and imperfection. Like I don't really have to force everything to societal norms. I can just like do what is best for me. So after I learned this principle, I continue to like teach this principle to other people who have maybe diseases or situations that they can't get out of. Like for example, like children with ADHD or something. So like yeah, so that's about what I wrote in my Common App essay. And honestly, how did I come up with this is very interesting because at first I didn't really think that this story is worth mentioning because I just lived it, right? But then when I was like drafting my Common App, my parents and my counselor sat down, and my counselor asked my parents, you know, like, is there anything like special or makes your child stand out. And like it can be anything, you know, emotionally, physically, or like in like what he has experienced. And of course we said a lot of other stuff which didn't really um make out. Like for example, like I played the piano. Yeah, sure, but everyone else played the piano in Hong Kong, right? So yeah, like stuff like that. But and then like my pinky uh like somehow made its way into the conversation, and my counselor was like, huh, maybe that's something we can work with, because like not everyone has this situation, right? So yeah, like so we just started with this. And yeah, and we like expanded the story to maybe like having trouble to reading, well, I mean like writing and typing and playing the piano and like spreading this principle, stuff like that. But yeah, like I would say like one lesson to take away from all of this is just to like sit down and actually like think what makes you stand out. I know this may be like very cliche, but like I would say like just make a list or of like stuff you experienced, or like maybe physically, or like anything. What makes you stand out. So and once you see that, you have to um like just honestly just hold it by the balls, to be honest, just like get everything out of it. And actually, like maybe if I were to do it again, maybe I would just make a list and maybe list all the things I think I'm special, which I think I makes me stand out, and maybe I'll like rate every aspect of it like 1 to 10. Maybe the pinky would be 10, and playing the piano would be like 2 or something, you know. And then after everything, I could look at it and see which one I want to focus on. So that is, I think that is one aspect that made my Common App essay special. But if we're talking about the supplementary essay special, I would say the IB really helped me on that aspect, because um, honestly, when I was applying to Cornell, I said I wanted to double major in computer science and economics, which of course changed as I'm majoring in computer science and math right now. But basically, what I said is, should we increase the minimum wage of domestic workers in Hong Kong to like increase the economic situation in Hong Kong overall? And and I would say that I use like in my extended essay, I would say, yeah, like how I analyze this problem, and how how my research kind of connects with this particular professor and this particular professor's arguments at Cornell. And I feel like, of course, linking your own research with the professor is good, but linking your research with the professor's particular arguments is even better, because like the more specific you go, the more the more you show the college that you have looked into their stuff, right? But honestly, this is pretty easy to do. Just go on the YouTube channel or ChatGPT, you know, just look up their research paper, parse the words in their research paper, and just like say you read everything and you agree with this arguments, and your research shows that you agree with this argument. So that's good. And yeah, well, honestly, but and another thing about the supplementary essay is, I think it should be a journey, right? Because at least my supplementary essay is like well, I think it's very common question, right? Like why economics or why CS? Like why study this subject you want to study at this college? So the journey should be something like I started with this thing, which I started with my extended essay, and I found this problem, and to pursue this problem, I did another thing, which I at a Hong Kong U business camp, I proposed I think a lit bank. It is like lit bank, like a financial literature bank, which helps migrant domestic workers to save money, but basically teach them money management stuff. So basically, yeah, it shows that I got the result from research and I acted on it, and of course, there's a bit of CS involved, and yeah, so like I would say overall for the supplementary essay, it should show a journey. Like you did something like you start with your own research and you find something special, and you should move to another segment where you act on it, and you should, maybe if you have some results, you can also show like how good your action on the particular problem you found in your research is. And yeah, and also link your research and the stuff you do with professor the professor papers of your college that you want to study in. So that's about it.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating presentation, and it is a very important thing, I think, to really pick up on what Max was just saying, is to really try to figure out what makes that college special. Because you could write about any professor, any argument around the world and throw that into your supplemental essay. But the question that they're looking for in that supplemental essay is like, why am I applying to Cornell? Or why am I applying to Columbia? Or why am I applying to this specific university? So you must have something within that to make sure that the students and also, well, I mean, the university counselors and the admissions team are able to actually figure out why you are applying to that university. So I hope you've been enjoying this video so far. If you've been enjoying this video so far, make sure to like and subscribe. It means a lot to me, and it really helps spread this channel to people around the world. Our goal at Logos Education is to provide affordable and accessible college consulting advice to everyone around the world. Anyone looking for their dream universities, they can turn to this channel as a very good source of information. Another good source of information while we were talking about that is the two books I've just recently published, the UCAS Bible and the US College Guide. For 15 quid each, or $15 US, you're able to get a copy of these on Amazon. The link will be in the description below, or you could get them for $10 at our website, which will also be in a link below. These are two guides which go through every single process of either the US application process or the UK application process. So if you're looking to get into your dream universities in both these countries and are not sure where to start, these are definitely a very helpful resource to get started with. So let us carry on with this interview, Max, and let's talk a bit about how some of the challenges during your application, because of course you've been pronouncing and presenting your application in such a brilliant and beautiful way. Let's talk a bit more about some of the challenges that you had while you're applying. What would you say is perhaps some of the most difficult things during your application process, and what were some ways in which you overcame it?
Well, that's a great question. So, firstly, I think one of the greatest challenges is, of course, to find which university you want to apply to, right? And of course, it's a balance of, your possibility of getting in and how good the university is, right? So, one thing I did, honestly, is very, honestly, I feel like choosing which university to apply to is like, it already like determines like 50% of your success rate, to be honest, because one thing about universities is like they rarely accept a lot of people from the same school, right? So, no, honestly, when I was applying for universities, my first choice was, of course, UPenn. But then there was another guy in my grade who is also applying to UPenn, and I didn't really want to like compete with him because his profile is also kind of strong. So I looked up other colleges, and turns out historically, Cornell has accepted um, uh, like a guy from my school every year, and at that point in time, there was no one applying to Cornell yet. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be that guy. So I just told my counselor I'm gonna apply to it, and I feel like it is also important for other people to know that you're applying to that college, because if if other people doesn't know, they will also apply to your college, and it would increase your competition, right? So honestly, it is also in their best interest not to apply if they think you're more competitive than them. So yeah, so basically just it's like game theory, right? So you just tell your counselor, and of course your counselor will also like tell other people if they're applying to Cornell. They will say like, hey, so Max is also applying here. They really want to apply, right? So like this will help avoid competition and increase your chances. So yeah, and I would say another obstacle I had is finding what makes you special, right? Like, of course, I said making the list and like ranking what makes you special on scales 1 to 10 is important, but this process is not easy. Like, I think I wrote over like 10 drafts of different stories until I arrived to the best story I can present to Cornell University. So just honestly, be persistent in your endeavors when you're applying to your dream college. Um, just like oh yeah, and don't like I think there's this thing called the fallacy of sunken cost, right? So like, don't think that because you spent a lot of time in this essay will be good. But like, of course, maybe it is good, but like you have to ask maybe Joshua here, or like ask other counselors, your school counselors, and if like all of their feedback is that this essay is like not competitive enough, you have to learn how to let go. Like at some point you just have to let go with your essay and like stop maybe thinking of ways of like how to make it more competitive. So yeah, so like overall I would say like the lessons I learned are like choose which college you apply to wisely, be strategic about it, and also don't be afraid of like making a lot of draft and then dumping it, because like that's the process.
Yes, I think that's so true. I mean, I think when I was writing my Columbia supplemental essay, which was successful, I think I ended up writing 15 drafts for that before I actually got to the final edition, and that was took absolutely crazy. Though actually, now that I've raised Columbia, I have a very funny story. Is me and my friend Warren Jew, which you could actually also check out an interview with him on this channel as well. He's currently at Harvard. Both of us applied with almost an identical activity list, with almost identical activities, and almost an identical essay, purely because we both read each other's essays because we were best friends, and both applied to Columbia and both got accepted. So I mean, I suppose there is some kind of situation where there is this, I guess, if you follow a structure good enough, you could almost get into a good university. Though at the same time, I definitely think competition is a very real thing, and in some sense you have to really find a way to stand out. And I think what Max is saying there is just so true. Is like, you have to play the game wisely. If there is 0 spots for you, no matter how good you are, you're not going to go get into 0 spots. So it's just playing that game wisely, being smart about it, and that's a very important thing. So perhaps to wrap up this part of the interview, before we then talk about life at Cornell, what are 3 tips you would give a student who's applying to Cornell University? What are some prep talk, if you could give them a pep talk perhaps before they play their final match in this Champions League final, what would you tell them? What are some words you would say to them?
So my 3 tips would be: choose your college strategically. Don't be afraid to write a lot of drafts and dump them. And also, mm, be nice to your teachers and counselors, because they write your recommendation letter, and you wouldn't want them to talk bad things behind your back. So like, be very nice to them.
So that's 3 brilliant tips. I completely agree with you. I mean, getting along well with your teachers is just so important, because I mean, if you don't get along well with your teachers, no matter how good you are, if a teacher says this student has bad attitude, you're not going to succeed. Before we end off this video, of course, if you found this helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, go check out the US College Guide and the UCAS Bible if you're applying to the US and the UK. They're very helpful guides put together by students at top universities to help you get into your dream universities. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week, where we have Max back onto the channel to talk about what it is like studying at Cornell.